many of us in this room maybe can't relate to. And I asked him about 6 months ago, I said, Kory, sometime I want you to share your testimony in one of my messages. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but it's coming. And so he wrote out his testimony, and it was like 17, 20 pages long. I said, Kory, we have to shorten this. And he did a great job. And I'm thrilled to have him speak from his heart to you today. And I just going to let him take it. Kory Wiita, let's give him a hand for the
So a lot of people in the room today have supported me or loved me in some way, whether that's really intimately being my family and friends, or more of a distance through the internet, prayer, or support in that way. And what I'm doing today is the best way I can think of to pay back that love, and that's to tell you about the hope and the love and the joy that I have in Jesus Christ. I've gone to Northside my entire life. I was baptized the day before my 11th birthday, and I became a child of God. Unfortunately, I wasn't a very well-behaved child of God. Through my middle school and high school years, I did everything I could to fit in with the world, to be cool, to be deemed successful, to make as many friends as possible, and to have fun. And a lot of those choices were choices that pushed Jesus and God out of my life. It wasn't until my senior year of high school that Jesus was forced back into my life. During my senior football season, the last game of the season was senior night. And before that game, my parents escorted me onto the field, and I had written a biography that was read aloud to the entire crowd. So in front of the 5,000 or whatever crowd it was, a biography was read that said how important my faith was in my life. The problem was I wasn't living a life that would prove that to be true. So in some ways, I think the events of that night were a prove it, Kory, prove that this is true. So the first half of that game was pretty boring. The score was actually 0-0. At the start of the second half, Highland, my team, was kicking off. I was on the kickoff team, and your goal on the kickoff team is to stay in your lane, run as fast as you can, and tackle the guy who has the ball. I had done this 5,000 times since the time I was 8, and I'd gotten pretty good at it. But this time it was a little bit different. When I ran down, the ball carrier turned my way, I stepped in front of him and made the tackle. But this time, the weight of my own teammates and some of the other players on the other team all converged, and I ended up on the bottom of the pile. The weight of all those players compressed my head down and caused a really serious neck injury. At the time, I didn't really feel any pain. I immediately had a really weird tingly feeling throughout my body. I didn't lose consciousness, but my head was really fuzzy. It's sort of hard to remember a lot of what happened on the field, but I do remember a few things. The first thing is, when my coach came out on the field, I apologized to him, because he had always said, don't lay out the field, because all it will do is worry your parents. The second thing I did is when my dad came out on the field, I made a promise not to even bother taking me off the field unless he promised that I would walk with him. When we got to the hospital, the x-rays showed that my C4 and C6 vertebrae had been cracked, and they compressed down on my C5 vertebrae, completely crushing it and pushing it into my spinal cord. The doctors saw these and immediately acted really fast. I didn't know the x-ray results, but I could tell by the demeanor of the nurses and the doctors that something really serious was going on. They immediately put screws in my head to lift the pressure off my neck and immediately started plans for surgery. 2 10-hour surgeries later, where I have proof of it, I have 12 stitches in my neck in the front and 36 staples in the back of my neck with scars to still show it. During this time, I was pretty convinced that I was not going to survive the night. In fact, the doctors had sort of prepped us for that expectation. What this really did was made me have my first real conversation with God in a long time. I told God that this is way too much for me to handle. Send Jesus down to handle it for me and just take me out to heaven because I can't do it. But I got a message back that said, just keep fighting. A few more minutes, a few more hours, just keep pushing through it. A few more days, a few more weeks, you can do this. And at this time, since I was under so much pain medication, the stress of the injury, and everything else that was going on, I fell into a state of confusion and psychosis to the point where I was sort of out of my own mind. So my body was destroyed and my mind was lost. And there's a quote that comes to mind when I think of this time in my life that says, "You won't know that Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all you have." And in that moment, Jesus was truly all I had. I did have the love and support of my family and the community and the hospital staff, but I was so out of it, so removed from the situation, that Jesus was truly the only thing I had to get me through that time. Now, there was a 3-week span where I was on so much medication and different things that I have a really unclear memory. I remember certain events, but the timeline is way off. I can't piece things together. I can't say this happened before, this happened, or anything like that. Not until November 19th, when my sister woke me up in the hospital and said, "Today is your half birthday." That is the point where I finally was able to put together the timeline of events and sort of remember what was going on. And when I woke up that day, I looked at a poster on the wall in the hospital room that had my name on it and a picture of me playing football. I stared at that poster for a really long time and thought, is that me? Is that who I am? Is my name Kory Wiita? Am I that person playing football? I was just so confused that nothing in life made sense at that time, and I was just unsure about everything. I assumed that probably was Kory Wiita, and that probably was me, otherwise it would have been a really weird hospital. But at this point, I was starting over at square one. I had to relearn how to breathe on my own. I had to relearn how to swallow food, and then every other physical task from there on out. I rebuilt this new life that was all focused on rehab. I was told I wouldn't be able to push my own chair. I was told that I would never be able to breathe without a ventilator. And during that time, I made a lot of strides physically. The only problem is, with all these physical strides, I was still struggling mentally. I felt like I was stuck just rebuilding the past and not building a new future. I finally came to the realization that whether I was happy or sad, I was still going to have a spinal cord injury. So it was my choice whether I was going to be a happy person with a spinal cord injury or a sad person with a spinal cord injury. It was truly that simple. So when I finally made the decision to be a happy person with a spinal cord injury, I re-enrolled in school. That came with its own struggles. I had to learn how to go to school without being able to hold a pencil or get to class on my own. But I eventually was able to adapt and learn how to succeed at school again. And I was still struggling though. I was doing better physically, doing better mentally, but I still was falling back into living for the world and avoiding my faith. That's when I truly hit bottom, was around October of 2013. I would start picking up more sinful habits and started finding anything to fill my life that wasn't Jesus, and none of it worked. To the point where I just felt so bad about myself and so bad about my situation that I didn't know how to go forward. That's when I finally realized that the cause for this darkness was that I had abandoned my faith. So around that time, I renewed my faith, renewed my commitment to Jesus, and took a big step forward. This was also around the same time that I decided I must have liked school because I wanted to go to 3 more years of law school. When I showed up at law school, the first thing I wanted to do was find something Christian-based that I could be in at the law school. So the law school had a group called the Christian Legal Society. Unfortunately, out of about 500 students in the law school, only about 5 students were in this group and went to the meetings each week. Through this group, around the 5-year anniversary of my injury, so on October 30th, 2014, I felt a strong conviction to share my story with my new law school classmates. So I posted on Facebook, kind of like I did this time, and invited anyone who wanted to hear it to come. To my surprise, our meetings are during lunch, during a busy law school day. 80 people showed up to our law school meeting to hear my story. Some of the people in the room were international students, some were professors, and some were even maintenance workers in the building. It was truly an amazing experience, and it was the first time I'd ever shared my story in any way like that. Around that exact same time, actually within 8 days of me sharing that story, Kayla, this girl who lived in Medina County as well, got in a really serious car accident. Because of that car accident, we connected on Facebook. And through that connection, we slowly talked online and eventually got up the courage to ask her to come meet me. And at the time she met me, I was working for the Cleveland Browns. And it just happened to be Veterans Day, so the whole building was closed, and I was the only one who went into work that day. So when Kayla came to meet me for lunch, I got to show her around the whole place like I owned it. We had a 3-hour lunch and got to know each other really well, and it was a pretty cool place to have those first 3 hours together. I knew right away that she was the perfect girl for me, that God had destined us to be together and to spend our life together. So 7 months later, I took her back to the Browns facility again, made up a fib about why she had to be there, and had our whole families there already, and I proposed to her and she said yes. So within the next year, we planned a wedding. It was also towards the end of law school, so that same summer I studied for the bar, and we went down to Columbus and took the bar. I say we took the bar because I needed someone to type for me during the exam, and they let Kayla type for me, so she took the bar with me. And for some crazy reason, we thought it would be a great idea to, in the same week, take a 3-day bar exam and then get married 2 days after that. Luckily, it all went really well. We came back, had an awesome ceremony at Northside. Our wedding went great. I passed the bar exam. And then that same fall, after we had been married, we went to what's called a small group mixer at Northside. And that was an event that was way out of our comfort zone. We had no idea what to expect. And truthfully, I wouldn't have gone if Kayla wasn't there to go with me. When we showed up at this event, a guy named Rich, who you saw up here singing a few minutes ago, came up to us and said, "Hey, I'm starting a new small group. It's at my house. You can come meet with us there." I gave him a weird look, and I think he knew what it meant, because he said, "Actually, we could meet at Northside, and that's more accessible." And so we joined this small group, and it's been the most transformative thing in my life. Ever since we joined it, there's about 8 couples in it that we share our life together, we've studied the Bible together, and it's really created this thirst in me to know God's Word and have a relationship with Jesus, to the point where I would rather spend my time learning something new about the Bible than learning a new law or learning something dumb the Browns are about to do that week. So what lessons are there to learn from my 27 years on earth, 10 with a spinal cord injury? The first is that I'm grateful for my injury. So many lessons have been learned, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today without this injury. It's weird to say that I'm glad it happened, but I am. The second is that I'm glad that my injury humbles me. It's hard to maintain a big ego when you have limited function over your bodily controls or when you can go to the bathroom. And for anyone who's competed against me in board games or fantasy football knows that I could use a little humbling every now and then. The last is that I've learned to put my trust in God. There's so many little things throughout a day that could derail my life, that I have to truly trust God to string together enough days to graduate from school, pass the bar exam, or hold down a job as an attorney. And I know that the reason that my injury occurred was so that the power of God can be shown in my life. In 2 Corinthians 12, 8 through 10, Paul writes of his own injury, and he writes, 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. Each time he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. This passage really stands out to me, and one of the first things that stands out to me is it only took Paul asking 3 times for this message to set in. Because for me, it's been about 3 million times that I've asked the Lord God to take it away. But just as Paul was able to boast in his weaknesses after realizing that God's grace is all he needed, I also am willing to boast in my weaknesses. So what are my weaknesses? Well, first, I'm paralyzed from the chest down, which includes my hands, so I can't really grip or hold anything. I also have constant nerve pain from the moment the injury happened. And the only way I can explain nerve pain is that terrible feeling when your foot falls asleep, plus the worst sunburn you ever have, plus potentially being on fire. And I live every day with that pain when I try to sleep, even as I sit up here now. Further, I can't do a lot of the things that I love doing in the first 17 years of my life. And all those are huge struggles, really difficult. But I can sit here today and tell you that through all that, every single day I am filled with joy and I'm filled with hope. And that is through my relationship with Jesus Christ. I hope there's something in my story you can relate to that would make you want to seek or strengthen your relationship with Jesus Christ as well. Whether your struggle is physical like mine, or a social struggle to fit in, or a strong temptation that you just can't shake off. I just hope that you'll